After the alpha fiancé broke off their engagement for his precious first love, his alpha buddies started showing up at my doorstep one after another. The first one arrived with a smug smile. I've always said alpha and beta can never end well. But hey, since you look so pitiful and I'm still single, I guess I could lower my standards and be with you. Thanks, but no thanks. Then came the second. Heard you got dumped? I just happened to be in the area, thought I'd drop by to comfort you. Can I come in? Don't bother pretending. You can't even hide that smirk. All morning I saw them off one by one. Until the last visitor. It was his omega first love. He came to my house to propose, but I turned him down. My dad got mad and kicked me out. Can you let me stay here for a bit? He was just an omega. What harm could he possibly do? What bad intentions could he have? You're an omega, aren't you? I forgot to tell you, I redifferentiated recently. I'm an enigma now. Sorry. Welcome to History channel. Subscribe to follow all our latest adventures. Story begins. The voice on the phone was a thunderclap in my ear. My father was yelling. Why did you call off the engagement with Kaylin? Do you even realize how desperately our family needs the Alexander investment right now? His fury was exhausting. You're going to explain everything to Kaylin right now. Tell him you never wanted to break off the engagement. Do it now. I pinched the bridge of my nose, patience thinning fast. Dad, how many times do I have to say it? Kaylin Alexander is the one who doesn't want me. He asked for the breakup. Even if I begged, it wouldn't change anything. Impossible. After all these years, you two never developed any feelings at all? If he really didn't want to be with you, why wait until now to call it off? You must have done something to upset him. Of course. It always had to be me. If anything went wrong between me and Kaylin Alexander, it was because I had done something wrong. Even now, when it was so clear the issue was with him. I took a slow breath and tried to explain again. He's in love with someone else now, okay? That's why he doesn't want to be with me. Don't you know what kind of person Kaylin Alexander is? He never hides it when he likes someone. The only reason he didn't call off the engagement earlier was because he hadn't met his person yet. Now he has. That's it. Well, maybe not entirely. It wasn't that he hadn't wanted someone before. It was just that his first love, his idealized omega, had never been near enough for him to act on it. But this time was different. This time, the white moonlight was finally close enough to reach. And once that spark was lit, it was over. Kaylin would never settle for anyone else. Bruce Nelson, I don't care what you do, my father snapped, but you will find a way to repair this. Make sure the Alexanders still marry into our family. You think a beta like you, rejected by an alpha, has any other decent option out there? There it was again. That same old story. And he wasn't wrong. No one better than the Alexanders would ever marry a beta like me. But did he not know? From the moment people found out about the engagement between me and Kaylin, no one had ever believed it would last. Anyone with eyes could see how mismatched we were. An alpha and a beta. They all knew how it would end. But no one cared. All they saw was the value Kaylin's last name would bring to our family. I'm not going back, I said flatly. I won't humiliate myself like that. If that's all you have to. A loud knock at the door cut me off. It wasn't subtle. The kind of knock that said the person wouldn't leave unless I answered. Still holding the phone, I trudged to the door, enduring my father's yelling in one ear while bracing for whatever fresh headaches stood outside. As soon as I opened it, I felt my stomach drop. Of course. It had to be him. David Arison. Kaylin Alexander's closest alpha friend. And the one who hated me most. He never missed a chance to throw shade my way whenever I appeared at Kaylin's side. His ridicule was sharp, constant, and never subtle. Now that the engagement had officially ended, I guessed he was here to make sure I heard his latest insult in person. How sweet. You here to gloat? I asked, already starting to close the door. If you came to spit more poison, don't bother. I already know what kind of garbage you'll say the second I see your face. But David Arison shoved his hand against the door, holding it open. I paused, annoyed, but then noticed his ears were turning red. He was flustered? His voice stuttered. You and Kalen, you really broke off the engagement? You're his best friend. Don't tell me you didn't already know. As soon as I said it, something in him changed. The tension dropped. His whole face lit up. Then, right in front of me, he straightened his clothes, ran a hand through his hair, and looked at me with, God, was that longing? His voice turned haughty. Insufferably so. I always said alphas and betas never work out. But seeing how pitiful you look right now, I'm still unmarried, so I guess I can make an exception and be with you. Thanks, but no thanks. His jaw dropped like I'd slapped him. You rejected me. You dare reject me? Yeah. And not only that, I'm also closing the door in your face. And I did. I shut it right on his stunned expression. What a joke. Was this some new tactic now that his insults had lost their thrill? Did he think switching to some bizarre form of mockery would work better? Only an idiot would fall for that. I glanced down at my phone. My dad had hung up at some point. I was about to call him back when... Another knock. I exhaled sharply and opened the door again. This time, it was Brandon Scott. Another of Kalen's alpha inner circle. At least he was polite. I heard about the breakup, he said with feigned sympathy. Just happened to be nearby, thought I'd check in. Mind if I come in for a bit? I gave him a tired look. Your smile's about to split your face. Don't bother pretending. What the hell was going on today? I hadn't forgotten how these guys used to treat me. Cold, dismissive, mocking, so long as I was by Kalen's side. But now that I was out of the picture, they suddenly became interested? I didn't believe it for a second. They weren't being sincere. David had said it himself, alphas and betas had no future. What did they think I could offer them, especially during their rut cycles? Besides handing them their inhibitors, what else could a beta do? They were messing with me. That had to be it. At least, that's what I thought, until the sixth alpha came to my door. By then, doubt began to creep in. There's no way they were all in on some elaborate prank. No one's that cruel, right? Still, the timing was bizarre. Just as I considered texting Kalen to ask if something was going on, the seventh knock came. Gentle this time. So soft, in fact, I didn't realize just how different it sounded, and how much I was about to regret ignoring that detail. If you're here to say something like, you're pitiful, I guess I could force myself to be with you, then you can turn around and leave. The rest of my sentence caught in my throat. It wasn't another one of Kalen Alexander's alpha buddies at the door. It was his white moonlight, Frank Peter. He stood there, lips curled faintly in a smile, but his eyes were tinged with a delicate kind of sorrow. Hey, Bruce Nelson. I got kicked out of my house. I don't have anywhere to go. Could I stay here for a while? Frank Peter was beautiful. The kind of beauty that blurred gender lines. Soft, refined, dangerously ethereal. Of course, that was exactly why so many alphas were drawn to him. Why he'd earned the title of the White Moonlight. He was rarely seen in public, and a few years ago he even moved abroad. But his distance only added to the allure. Even overseas, stories about him never stopped circulating in our circles. And David Arison and the rest? They never passed up a chance to weaponize his name to mock me. But I never held it against him. Never blamed Frank Peter. He didn't know about anything that had happened between me and Kalen. And looking at him now, I realized our situations weren't all that different. Kalen came to my house to propose, he said, head lowered, eyes avoiding mine. My dad wanted to accept, but I didn't. So he threw me out. I don't have anywhere to go now. I can't stay with any of the other alphas, not anymore. As he spoke, his chin dipped lower, exposing the pale curve of his neck, vulnerable, almost too delicate. He was just an omega. A homeless one, no less. And Bruce Nelson, might not be some strong, dominant alpha, but at least I was a beta. What harm could possibly come from letting him in? He needed shelter. I had a roof. It was simple. Come in. I stepped aside to let him enter. I didn't see the flicker of sly amusement in his eyes. That was my mistake. I assumed he wouldn't have much with him. Maybe a backpack at most. But when I saw the 3 full-sized suitcases he dragged in, I was stunned. It didn't look like someone who'd been kicked out. It looked like someone who had packed with care, prepared for a comfortable stay. I just got back from overseas, he said with a soft smile. Hadn't even finished unpacking yet, so this kind of worked out, I guess. God, I felt awful. How could I have doubted him? Frank Peter wouldn't lie. I waved my hands quickly. No worries. Really? I helped him haul everything inside and showed him the guest room. It's a small place. And the second bedroom's even smaller. Nothing like what you're probably used to, but if you don't mind, you're welcome to stay. Suddenly, I felt something brush my cheek. I flinched. Frank Peter stood close, holding up his fingers, showing a faint smudge of gray. There was some dust on your face, he said gently. Sorry. I didn't mean to startle you. I rubbed at my cheek, flustered, especially the spot where he'd touched. No, it's okay. You're already doing so much for me, he murmured. And we barely even know each other. Honestly, I'm the one who should apologize. If it weren't for me, you'd still be engaged to Kaylin. You lost everything because of me. No, I said quickly. It's not because of you. Even if he wasn't in love with you, Kaylin still would have called off the engagement. He never had any real feelings for me. I sank into the couch. My voice was calm. I didn't even feel particularly sad. I'd been bracing for this for years. You were engaged for so long, Frank asked. Did you never think about trying to build something real with him? Of course I had. People told me that from the start, that I was to care for Kaylin Alexander, that I was his future partner. I grew up believing I'd be at his side, that we'd figure life out together, that there had to be something deeper, eventually. So yes, I tried. But Kaylin caught on. And he didn't take it well. He confronted me, cold and distant, and told me not to entertain those kinds of thoughts. I'm just a beta, I said quietly. You think someone like him could ever really want me? Even early on I knew. Kaylin didn't love me. In fact, I think he resented me. But he needed me to keep his family happy. So I played along. He played along. We pretended. To the world, we looked like a happy couple. But really? We were nothing. Barely even friends. Maybe this is your second chance, Frank said gently. Maybe if he hadn't broken it off, things would have gotten even worse for you. He had a point. We were both adults now. The families had started discussing a real wedding in the past 2 years. But Kaylin always rejected the idea, said he wasn't ready. That it was too soon. In hindsight, maybe I should thank him. And now, here we were, me and Frank Peter. 2 people left in the wreckage of Kaylin's choices. Maybe I was better off. Maybe Frank was too. I hope you're right, I murmured. Maybe this is a chance. Maybe it's the break I needed. Frank smiled. Soft, warm, dazzling. He really was everything they said he was. No wonder he was Kaylin Alexander's dream. If I weren't a beta, I might have fallen for him too. But if I weren't a beta, he never would have ended up at my door. While he unpacked, my phone lit up again. My father. He was ranting again. Same script. Different day. Complaints about my ungratefulness, dramatic warnings about the company going under, threats about how I'd end up on the streets. Typical. Things weren't nearly as bad as he made them sound. Just a tight quarter on funding, nothing unmanageable. But my dad always imagined the worst-case scenario, and then panicked like it was already happening. When I finally hung up and walked back to the living room, Frank Peter was waiting on the couch, looking concerned. Was it your family? He asked softly. I nodded, then filled him in. Nothing too detailed, just enough to let him know I was drowning in pressure. I didn't have many people I could talk to. Frank wasn't exactly a friend, but something about him made me want to open up. Maybe it was that famous Omega softness, that ability to make people feel safe. I can help, he said. You. Yes. I might have been kicked out, but I still have friends abroad. One of them's actually looking to invest in a company like your family's. I could introduce you. I stared at him, hope surging in my chest. Maybe it really was true. Maybe Omegas couldn't possibly have bad intentions. Especially when it came to someone like Frank Peter, such a breathtakingly beautiful Omega. Thank you so much. Without thinking, I threw my arms around him. He smelled amazing, sweet and clean, The kind of scent that made you want to sink in and forget the world. He gently patted my back. I'm glad I could help. I was already overwhelmed with gratitude when I felt something press oddly against me where our bodies met. The belt? I reached a hand around, confused, fingers brushing toward the source of the discomfort. Is your belt that hard? It's really poking. Before I could touch anything, Frank Peter caught my wrist in a flash. His ears were burning red, bright enough that they could drip blood. His voice came out low and strained. I need to go unpack. Excuse me. I thought he was just being polite. But the next morning, my father messaged me, abruptly, urgently, saying there was no longer a need for me to marry into the Alexander family. Someone had stepped in and funded us. I didn't even need to guess who it was. Of course, it was one of Frank Peter's friends. I wanted to thank him, to do something nice in return, but Frank Peter didn't give me a chance. Because before I could even lift a finger, he was already cooking. And his cooking was divine. I couldn't cook to save my life. I had tried. It just wasn't in my DNA. But Frank Peter? He cooked like he was performing a sacred ritual, every move graceful, every expression focused and serene. Watching him was like watching art in motion. Wonder which lucky alpha will get to enjoy this every day, I mumbled, stuffing my face with another spoonful of his magic. Does it have to be an alpha? I blinked. Could it be a beta too? He didn't answer. Just shot me a sly little smile from across the table. Who knows? Come on. That wasn't even funny. A beta didn't have pheromones. A beta couldn't ease an omega's pain during their ruts. Even if an omega forced themselves into a relationship with a beta, could that beta really handle watching them suffer through every heat, unable to help? Before I could follow that line of thought too far, Frank Peter gently brushed his fingers against mine. If you weren't a beta, would you want to marry me? His eyes sparkled as he asked. I looked up and crashed straight into them. I would. Who wouldn't? Who could resist someone like Frank Peter? Certainly not me. I wasn't a saint. Then that's enough, he said softly. You don't have to worry about me falling for some alpha. None of them could ever compare to you, not in my eyes. He really knew how to soothe people, didn't he? But I wasn't a fool. I couldn't let myself believe it all. No alpha could compare to me? A beta? That was rich. He was probably just saying that because he was still living under my roof. But I didn't press. I just happily accepted his cooking every day and lived in this warm illusion he created. I did try to find out where Kaylin Alexander had gone, just in case. If he really wanted to be with Frank Peter, there was no telling what he might do to sabotage our peace. But what I heard was that he had gone abroad, supposedly to manage a project crisis. How convenient. Still, it was good news. If he was overseas, he couldn't cause trouble for me or for Frank Peter. No reason to complain. What I didn't expect was to hear from him directly. Which, in hindsight, made sense. I'd gone out with Frank Peter a few times. We'd been spotted. Word travels fast in our circles. Eventually, it would reach Kaylin. Kaylin Alexander, you're living with Frank Peter? Are you two living together now? What's going on between you? I hadn't even replied when another message came through. Kaylin Alexander, are you two together? I scoffed at my screen. God, if only. After spending half a month with Frank Peter, I knew exactly how good he was. He was like some sort of domestic sea god, cleaning the entire place spotless, feeding me daily with incredible meals, making late-night snacks when I stayed up drawing designs. He even gave the best shoulder massages. How could anyone not fall for that? But I was just a beta. I didn't deserve someone like him. So I ignored Kaylin's messages. Frank had already told me there was nothing between them. They'd barely even met. It had all been Kaylin's one-sided obsession. Frank had said, in the clearest, most annoyed tone possible, that he would never, ever end up with Kaylin Alexander. And just like that, my own opinion of Kaylin soured too. I blocked him. There was no emotional connection left. And now, not even a financial one. Why keep him around? This bar's new. My friend just opened it, Frank said as we walked in. I know you've been stressing over your sketches, so I thought we could relax a little. The place was beautifully decorated. Not too loud. Just the right amount of people. It felt safe. You're right, I admitted, sitting down across from him. I've been a little tense. Looking at his face, no matter how many times I'd seen it, it still had a hold on me. Have you talked to your family? I asked gently. Are they still upset? His smile faded a bit. Do you think I've overstayed my welcome? If I've been a bother, I can move out. Wait, no. I rushed to respond. But before I could explain, a hand slapped down on my shoulder. I turned and instantly regretted coming out tonight. David Arison and Brandon Scott. Of course. The two of them, arms slung around each other, grinning like jackals. What are you two doing here? David's gaze flicked from me to Frank. Why are you with him? You should stay away from him. He reached out to grab me. I'd already had 2 drinks. My head was spinning. His tug almost knocked me off my feet. You two are out of your damn minds. I smacked David Arison's hand away and stepped forward, planting myself firmly in front of Frank Peter, blocking their view of him. I'm doing this for your sake. David snapped. Do you even know who Frank Peter really is? And you're just clinging to him like that? Of course I know who he is. We've been living together. How could I not know? You what? David's face twisted in disbelief. Bruce Nelson, are you an idiot? I rolled my eyes. Who I lived with was none of their business. I wasn't even connected to Kalen Alexander anymore, so why were his friends still breathing down my neck? Brandon Scott stepped in, all calm and composed like some concerned elder brother. We're just worried about you, Bruce. Do you really know this Omega? Just look at him. Doesn't seem like someone with pure intentions. Oh please, what evil intentions could an Omega possibly have? It's you alphas who always have something up your sleeves. Before I could even finish the sentence, I felt an arm snake around my waist. Then the full weight of Frank Peter leaned into me from behind, his chin resting gently on my shoulder. He sounded fragile and hurt, but behind my back, where only those two could see, he flashed them a playful, taunting smile. Bruce is right, he murmured sweetly. I'm just a poor little Omega. What could I possibly do? I'd never been this close to Frank Peter before. His sudden embrace sent heat spiraling through my entire body. His hand pressed against my waist, his chest practically flush with my back, his breath warm against my neck. Too close. Way too close. And the alcohol in my system wasn't helping. My head spun harder. His voice, God, his voice, was deep and soft, and it went straight to my nerves. He smelled incredible. Clean, warm, faintly sweet. Better than any of those smug, loud-mouthed alphas could ever dream of. How could someone like him have bad intentions? All he ever did was make my life better. Bruce, he's using you. David barked. He's manipulating you, worse than you can imagine. Really? I scoffed. Because to me, it looks like you're the ones full of manipulation. David's face darkened. It looked like he was about to lose it completely. I braced myself. If it came to it, I'd drag Frank Peter out of here. I wasn't going to let this get ugly. You're inviting a wolf into your home. Brandon shouted. What wolf? He hasn't done a thing to hurt me. You call that a threat? He's just after your body. That's all he wants. I blinked, stunned, then turned to stare at them both with narrowed eyes. Are you two out of your minds? You've been screaming for years that I'm a beta, that no alpha would ever want me, and now suddenly you think an Omega does? Yeah, right. I'd seen through them long ago. They were like this when I was with Kalen Alexander too. Always looking down on me. Always watching. And now that I was close to Frank Peter, they were still doing the same thing. Enough was enough. You know what? I've had it with your bullshit, I snapped. I get it now. You just can't stand to see me doing well, can you? I glared at them both. If you hate me so much, just ignore me. Pretend I don't exist. We can be strangers from now on. And I didn't wait for a response. I grabbed Frank Peter's hand and stormed toward the bar's exit, dragging him behind me. As we walked, I couldn't help but rant. Can you believe those psychos? Thinking you'd actually be into someone like me? You're way out of my league, an amazing Omega like you wouldn't fall for a beta. Maybe I would. I stumbled. Literally. My left foot tripped over my right, and I almost ate pavement. Luckily, Frank Peter caught me before I could go down. Thanks. Seriously. That was close. Still flustered, I patted my chest to calm my heart down and tried to forget what he'd just said. Then I casually added, honestly, I think they're just in love with Kaylin. Frank Peter's hand was still on my waist. He tilted his head slightly, raising an eyebrow. Oh. Think about it. When I was still engaged to Kaylin, they targeted me. Now that I'm not, and Kaylin's obsessed with you, suddenly you're their new problem. They're just trying to eliminate whoever gets close to him. The more I said it, the more it made sense. I was practically glowing with the thrill of my own deduction. What other explanation was there? But Frank didn't look impressed. In fact, his expression was weird. You've never considered the possibility that maybe they're not jealous of who Kaylin likes. What do you mean? He paused, caught my gaze, then turned away with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Never mind. You're probably right. It must be about Kaylin. Just keep your distance from them, okay? Definitely. I'm staying miles away from those two. As we kept walking, my legs started wobbling again. Goddamn alcohol. Just as I pitched forward, Frank caught me again, steady, warm, safe. Okay, this was getting embarrassing. 2 stumbles in one night? What was wrong with my inner ear? Still, falling into Frank Peter's chest felt kind of nice and comforting. While I was leaning against him, something that had been on my mind suddenly slipped out. Hey, Frank, you're an Omega, right? So how come you're taller than most alphas? A gust of wind blew past us, and with it, the last remnants of my inhibition floated away. Alcohol really did make you brave. My hand, entirely of its own accord, landed on his chest. And my fingers squeezed. Them, Frank. Your body's incredible. How'd you get it like this? Honestly, way better than Kaylin's. He didn't stop me. His hand on my waist didn't budge. If anything, his breath grew heavier. Then, a quiet sound escaped his throat. A low, muffled groan. When he spoke again, his voice was tinged with something darker. Better than his, huh? So you've touched his too? What? I'm just saying, I could tell by looking. He doesn't look nearly as good as you. I had no idea how bold I'd become. I didn't notice how hot his skin had grown beneath my hand, or how his chest was rising and falling faster than before, or how much I was starting to affect him. Just as the tension between us was about to snap, a voice, sharp and thunderous, cut through the air like a lightning strike. What the hell are you two doing? Startled out of my haze, I instinctively stumbled and fell straight into Frank Peter's arms. The voice, it sounded familiar. I peeked out from the crook of Frank's shoulder. And sure enough, there he was, Kaylin Alexander. Still in his suit and tie, probably fresh off the plane. I hadn't planned to talk to him. Honestly, I had no reason to. But then I remembered the theory Frank and I had talked about earlier. So I pulled away from Frank Peter and stumbled forward, stopping in front of Kaylin. I didn't even care about the stormy look on his face. Fixing him with a serious stare, I declared, "You'd better be careful who you trust, Kaylin. Some of the people you think are your bros? They might be trying to be your boyfriends." Bruce Nelson, what the hell are you talking about? I'm not talking nonsense. Think about it, your so-called friends have been targeting me for years. But you never noticed? You never questioned it? Well, now it's over between us, and guess what? I don't have to take it anymore. I was getting worked up, words spilling out faster than my mouth could catch them. My head was swimming again. I barely managed to stay upright. But then I felt myself being pulled back. Into a warm chest. Frank Peter. He reached up and gently covered my eyes with one hand. And just like that, everything went dark. "Time to go home," he whispered. "Yes," I muttered, snuggling into him. "Let's go home." But not before I got the last word. I staggered back over to Kaylin, patted him on the shoulder and said, "Watch your back." Literally. Before he could explode, I grabbed Frank Peter and dashed out. I couldn't stop laughing the entire walk back. Just the look on Kaylin's face had been worth it. "You seem pleased," Frank said, his hand brushing lightly against my wrist. I wasn't satisfied with the distance between us. I scooted closer on the bench, practically pressing my shoulder to his arm. I looked up at him, eyes sparkling like a puppy begging for treats. Of course I'm happy. I've been dying to say something like that for years. My dad always warned me not to upset Kaylin, but now? I don't care anymore. We're done. He and I will never get married. I slumped against him. My brain was starting to fuzz again, heavy with alcohol. Before I drifted off completely, I heard him ask softly, "Then who do you want to marry?" And I think I answered. I think I said, "Frank Peter." But my head hurt. My eyes hurt. Even my lips hurt. Think about it. When I was still engaged to Kaylin, they targeted me. Now that I'm not, and Kaylin's obsessed with you, suddenly you're their new problem. They're just trying to eliminate whoever gets close to him. The more I said it, the more it made sense. I was practically glowing with the thrill of my own deduction. What other explanation was there? But Frank didn't look impressed. In fact, his expression was weird. You've never considered the possibility that maybe they're not jealous of who Kaylin likes. What do you mean? He paused, caught my gaze, then turned away with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Never mind. You're probably right. It must be about Kaylin. Just keep your distance from them, okay? Definitely. I'm staying miles away from those two. As we kept walking, my legs started wobbling again. Goddamn alcohol. Just as I pitched forward, Frank caught me again, steady, warm, safe. Okay, this was getting embarrassing. 2 stumbles in one night? What was wrong with my inner ear? Still, falling into Frank Peter's chest felt kind of nice and comforting. While I was leaning against him, something that had been on my mind suddenly slipped out. Hey, Frank, you're an Omega, right? So how come you're taller than most alphas? A gust of wind blew past us, and with it, the last remnants of my inhibition floated away. Alcohol really did make you brave. My hand, entirely of its own accord, landed on his chest. And my fingers squeezed. Them, Frank. Your body's incredible. How'd you get it like this? Honestly, way better than Kaylin's. He didn't stop me. His hand on my waist didn't budge. If anything, his breath grew heavier. Then, a quiet sound escaped his throat. A low, muffled groan. When he spoke again, his voice was tinged with something darker. Better than his, huh? So you've touched his too? What? I'm just saying, I could tell by looking. He doesn't look nearly as good as you. I had no idea how bold I'd become. I didn't notice how hot his skin had grown beneath my hand, or how his chest was rising and falling faster than before, or how much I was starting to affect him. Just as the tension between us was about to snap, a voice, sharp and thunderous, cut through the air like a lightning strike. What the hell are you two doing? Startled out of my haze, I instinctively stumbled and fell straight into Frank Peter's arms. The voice, it sounded familiar. I peeked out from the crook of Frank's shoulder. And sure enough, there he was, Kaylin Alexander. Still in his suit and tie, probably fresh off the plane. I hadn't planned to talk to him. Honestly, I had no reason to. But then I remembered the theory Frank and I had talked about earlier. So I pulled away from Frank Peter and stumbled forward, stopping in front of Kaylin. I didn't even care about the stormy look on his face. Fixing him with a serious stare, I declared, "You'd better be careful who you trust, Kaylin. Some of the people you think are your bros? They might be trying to be your boyfriends." Bruce Nelson, what the hell are you talking about? I'm not talking nonsense. Think about it, your so-called friends have been targeting me for years. But you never noticed? You never questioned it? Well, now it's over between us, and guess what? I don't have to take it anymore. I was getting worked up, words spilling out faster than my mouth could catch them. My head was swimming again. I barely managed to stay upright. But then I felt myself being pulled back. Into a warm chest. Frank Peter. He reached up and gently covered my eyes with one hand. And just like that, everything went dark. "Time to go home," he whispered. "Yes," I muttered, snuggling into him. "Let's go home." But not before I got the last word. I staggered back over to Kaylin, patted him on the shoulder and said, "Watch your back." Literally. Before he could explode, I grabbed Frank Peter and dashed out. I couldn't stop laughing the entire walk back. Just the look on Kaylin's face had been worth it. "You seem pleased," Frank said, his hand brushing lightly against my wrist. I wasn't satisfied with the distance between us. I scooted closer on the bench, practically pressing my shoulder to his arm. I looked up at him, eyes sparkling like a puppy begging for treats. "Of course I'm happy. I've been dying to say something like that for years. My dad always warned me not to upset Kaylin, but now? I don't care anymore. We're done. He and I will never get married." I slumped against him. My brain was starting to fuzz again, heavy with alcohol. Before I drifted off completely, I heard him ask softly, "Then who do you want to marry?" And I think I answered. I think I said, "Frank Peter." But my head hurt. My eyes hurt. Even my lips hurt. David had to leave early, but Brandon stuck around. He said he wanted to discuss a business opportunity, interior design work for a new property he'd just bought. Naturally, I wasn't going to turn down a paying client. But partway through the conversation, he changed the subject. "So, Frank Peter's just crashing at your place? You two aren't involved?" "Nope," I replied without looking up. "He got kicked out thanks to the whole Kaylin situation. I didn't want to see him homeless, so I let him stay." I wasn't sure, but it felt like Brandon visibly brightened at that. "Weird. You don't like him?" I raised an eyebrow. "What is with you guys? Every time two people live together, you assume they're sleeping together? You're always with David Arison, so what, are you in love with him?" I didn't say what I was really thinking, that maybe I did like Frank Peter a little. But I also knew we weren't right for each other. He deserved an alpha. Someone who could match him in every way. I was just a beta. I wasn't even in the running. Brandon laughed nervously. No, of course not. Just curious, that's all. But hey, if he's really not into Kaylin, I could introduce him to someone better, someone his family might actually approve of. That idea made sense. Kaylin might be desirable, sure. But he was a walking scandal magnet. If Frank wanted a stable life, he needed someone better. I said. "But if you introduce anyone to him, I want to meet the guy first. I don't trust your taste." Brandon grinned. "Deal." The moment I got home, before I even took off my coat, Frank Peter was at the door, arms crossed. "You met with an alpha today?" "Yeah." "I saw David and Brandon. They came to apologize. Said they weren't targeting me out of spite, just wanted me to realize things with Kaylin weren't going anywhere." I pulled off my coat, then frowned. "Wait, how did you even know they were alphas?" Frank's expression tightened. "You reek of it. I can smell their pheromones on you. Did anything intimate happen?" "I what?" "No." He cut me off gently. "Sorry. I didn't mean to invade your privacy. I'm just a little sensitive to alpha pheromones lately." That explained the weird look on his face. I quickly stepped back. "Sorry, I didn't even realize. You know I can't smell them, betas don't pick up on alpha scent." He nodded, but didn't look much more at ease. "I'll shower. Get the scent off me." "Okay." Even after I washed up, I couldn't stop thinking about it. "Maybe I should move out," I offered hesitantly. Frank paused mid-meal. "Why?" "Because of my work. I can't avoid dealing with alphas. If it's going to keep affecting you like this." Frank set his chopsticks down. "It's nothing. My next heat's probably just close. That's why I'm so sensitive lately. But if I'm bothering you, I can move out instead." No, you're not bothering me at all." We were both trying to be considerate, but the situation was getting trickier every day. And before I could even figure out how to handle it, my schedule exploded. Design work from both David and Brandon came in all at once. Big projects. Big budgets. High standards. I barely had time to breathe, let alone stay home. Some nights, I was out so late I just grabbed dinner with the clients before heading home. And on those nights, Frank always called. "Hey, when are you coming home?" Every single time. And every time he asked, David Arison would lean over, sip his tea with exaggerated slowness, and smirk. Well, someone sure is clingy, huh? I'm not even Bruce Nelson's lover, So why does he have to call every night to check in? What's there to rush? If you're just roommates, then act like it. Ask too many questions and it just gets annoying. I wasn't sure where his hostility toward Frank Peter came from, but I found myself instinctively defending him. How could you say that about him? He only calls because he cares. If you say something like that again, I'm not taking your project. Okay. My bad, alright? I won't say anything else. Now come eat. I turned back to my phone and said goodbye to Frank Peter. Want me to come pick you up? No, it's fine. It's too late for you to be out. You're an Omega, it's not safe. I'll come back myself. But despite what I'd said, when I walked out after drinking and saw him waiting by the curb, I couldn't hide the grin that spread across my face. I immediately broke away from David Arrison's grip and ran straight into Frank Peter's arms. Literally, because I slammed right into his chest. But he didn't push me away. Instead, he held me tightly. I told you not to drink outside, didn't I? I only had a little, just a little bit. Don't be mad, okay? He gave my cheek a playful squeeze. We'll talk about this when we get home. I thought that meant he'd lecture me for a bit and then drop it. But once we were home, I realized that wasn't the kind of talking he meant. Something about the way he moved was different. He was closer than usual. Close enough that all I had to do was tilt my chin up and I'd be kissing him. Why'd you meet with them? They're my clients. Do you like them? What? I don't like alphas. Frank Peter made a soft sound, like a laugh, but I couldn't be sure. Then what do you like? I like the... He leaned in. Do you like me? His voice was soft but heavy with intent. I looked up at him, opened my mouth to say yes, but then remembered the gap between us. And quickly shook my head. I like betas. Frank's expression darkened slightly. His grip on my wrist tightened just a little too much. You don't like me? I tried to speak, but I never got the chance. Because his mouth crashed against mine in a kiss that stole all the words, and all the air, right out of me. My mind cleared instantly. The alcohol haze gone. I was about to push him away, demand why he kissed me, when he beat me to it. You really don't like me? Or do you just think we're not compatible? If we were being honest now, then fine. Just, I don't think we're right for each other. You're an Omega, I'm a beta. It won't work. I can't give you children. Frank Peter just smiled. I was never going to have children anyway. What? I stared at him, confused. That smile of his deepened, lazy, teasing. He leaned over me and pinned me down onto the couch, his lips brushing my ear. Voice low, smug, and devastatingly seductive. Sweetheart, no one ever told you? I stopped being an Omega a long time ago. I redifferentiated when I was abroad. I'm an enigma now. I can't have children. My brain lagged behind. And then his hand slid down, pressed gently against my stomach, massaging slowly, deliberately. I can't, but if I try hard enough, maybe you can. Wait, what? Was this a joke? He knew I couldn't smell pheromones. Was that how he tricked me? The thing is, I wasn't even mad that he lied. I was mad because I'd been so dumb. I'd lived with him for months, and never suspected a thing. I pushed against him, angry, embarrassed, but he didn't budge. Didn't even flinch. He easily caught my wrists and pinned them over my head, holding me there like I was nothing. And in that moment, I finally understood what people meant when they warned me. This really was letting the wolf in the door. Does me being an enigma mean you don't like me anymore? He asked softly. I'm still the same. I didn't become someone else. I didn't answer. So he lowered his head, brushing his lips across mine again. Say it. You can't tell me you haven't fallen for me. I couldn't. Because I had. And the worst part? I was starting to think he'd planned this all along. Every teasing touch. Every soft smile. He never had to stay at my place. He was rich, he could have gone anywhere. But he came to me. Of course I'd fallen for it. Bruce Nelson, he murmured, I like you. It doesn't matter what you are, beta, alpha, omega, I'd still want you. But, people will talk. Just like how people said alpha and beta couples never lasted. And now an enigma and a beta? Would we even have a chance? Frank Peter pressed a kiss to the corner of my lips. Do you trust me? What? Do you trust that I can protect you? That I'll make sure no one dares talk behind our backs? The way he said it, I believed him. He would shut them all up if he wanted to. Then he grabbed my hand, placed it on his chest, and slowly guided it downward. You really want someone else touching me like this? Do you think you'll ever find someone better than me? Sweetheart, when the right person comes along, don't let them go. You might not get another chance. My fingers clenched instinctively. My throat went dry. He was too much. Too close. Too perfect. And I was too far gone. Dizzy with heat, I nodded once. That was all it took. The next second, his kiss landed, fierce, breathless, consuming. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. And apparently, Frank Peter had been holding back for a while. Because once he started, he didn't stop. By the time he finally let me up for air, I was shaking. And completely, utterly his. Why do you even like me? Frank Peter wrapped his arms around me, pulling me into his chest. Maybe you don't remember, he murmured, but I saw you once, when you were abroad attending an event. I didn't get the chance to introduce myself before you left. Huh? Had we really met before? That didn't seem right. I was sure I would have remembered someone like him. You were on stage, he explained gently. Everyone was watching you. I was just one of many. You didn't notice me, it's normal. Now that I thought about it, I had been nervous, standing up there. Probably too nervous to pay attention to anything or anyone in the audience. Baby, he continued, voice low against my ear, don't tell me you really think you're just ordinary. Do you not realize how many people secretly like you? What? No way. Isn't it just you? Frank laughed, rubbing the wrist he'd accidentally grabbed too tightly earlier. You're so oblivious it's almost cute. Those alphas, you know, your ex-fiancé's friends? Most of them had a thing for you. Didn't you notice? I jerked up from his arms in disbelief. So when they all showed up after my engagement was broken off, they weren't coming to mock me? They were actually trying to confess? Still, what kind of confession is that supposed to be? I don't care, I muttered, flopping back into Frank's arms. Like you said, if they were too proud to say anything outright, then they didn't like me enough. Frank chuckled, stroking my hair. But it's better that way. If you'd noticed, I might not have had a chance. Exactly. If I'd realized sooner, you wouldn't have made it in. When I asked why he didn't come talk to me back then, he just smiled. I had morals. I knew you were already engaged. I don't steal from other people. Oh, so where did your morals go? He smirked. One night I realized no one could love you better than I could. So I caught the next flight home. So Kaylin's sudden change of heart was all Frank Peter's doing? This man was dangerous. All of that scheming, just for me. After we got together, Frank personally turned down the project offers from David Arison and Brandon Scott on my behalf. He met with them himself and came back practically glowing. Then, using that as an excuse, he demanded a reward, which turned out to be moving into my bedroom permanently. Truly shameless. As for Kaylin Alexander, somewhere along the way, he completely lost his mind. He started messaging me from alternate accounts, telling me he'd never stopped liking me. That Frank Peter had set him up, manipulated him, made him call off the engagement. That he never really liked Frank at all. That he just didn't think he could ever accept a beta as a partner. Now he wanted to talk. To meet face to face. I didn't say yes. I sent one message back. Even without him, I never would have chosen you. So let's leave it at that. Don't contact me again. But Kaylin wasn't giving up. He even showed up at my house. Too bad for him, I wasn't home. I was in the bedroom, helping Frank Peter through his susceptibility phase. Betas didn't have pheromones. But Frank didn't care. He didn't need them. He only needed me. Though, at that point, I was honestly starting to feel like I couldn't take much more of him. He messaged you again, Frank muttered, a little too casually. Softening up yet? I tugged on his hair, annoyed. He always asked this whenever my phone buzzed with Kaylin's name. If I was going soft, would I still be here with you right now? He hummed. Fair point. Not that I'd let you go see him anyway. Even if he did let me go, it's not like I could. Not when I could barely stand up straight anymore. How much longer is your susceptibility phase gonna last? I groaned. Frank kissed my palm, sweet as anything. Tired? What do you think? Yeah, betas were technically built tougher than omegas. But this was ridiculous. I'd spent the past several days trapped in the bedroom. He hadn't let me rest once. Honestly, I was considering tossing him an inhibitor and calling it a day. You just don't know me well enough yet, baby, he whispered. Then he picked me up, carried me to the window, and pressed me against the glass. He tilted my face down toward the street. I froze. Kalen was outside, standing next to his car, looking up toward my building. He couldn't see us, not really. But still, my heart raced. A man like that, Frank murmured against my ear, was given a chance, and he threw it away. And now he wants to crawl back. What do you think, baby? Is he pathetic? He looked at me like he wanted an answer. So I swallowed hard and whispered, pathetic. If it had been me who got engaged to you back then, Frank said, eyes burning, we'd already be living our happy ending. Aren't we now? It's not enough. When you love someone, you always want more. And in that moment I realized I was lucky to have met Frank Peter. Lucky to have walked away from Kalen. Some things arrive late. But they arrive all the same. The end.
Thanks for stopping by. Subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any new videos.